I have a hand, you have a hand, but sometimes you need an extra. Ever since I was a kid, I've dreamed of making a bionic hand. But being a kid and all, it's kinda hard to make something like that. So, now that I'm older and have access to cooler, slightly janky tools, I'm ready to make my own robotic hand. First thing I need to figure out was what I wanted out of this hand. Did I want to build a hand or a full arm? Would it be red or purple? How would it work? Why does it smell like that in here? All of these questions needed answers. So I sat down and decided what exactly I wanted this first iteration to do. First rule, each finger needs to open and close. I know, crazy. Second rule, the thumb needs to not only open and close, but also move side to side and move across the palm. And also, honorary mention, just so it's easy for me, I want a fastener-free design, with all the joints simply just snap fitting together. Also, some other rules, but those will get mentioned later, just wait. Next, I needed to determine how I wanted the hand to move. I knew I wanted to use RC microservos because they were easy to use, cheap, and I had some lying around, but I didn't know exactly how I wanted them positioned. If you've ever seen someone make a robotic hand online, they tend to put the servos in the forearm and run strings up to the fingers for a pulley-like system. But I decided I would put my servos in the fingers themselves, using a linking system to drive the fingers, while also allowing for a modular design and more simplicity without having to deal with all those cables. Now, you may be saying, what is a linkage-driven system? Well, I have a crazy revelation for you. It's just rods. That's it. Basically, the servo will push one rod, which pushes the other rod, giving the curling motion of a finger. So, after figuring all this out, I hunkered down and got to the scary part of the project: designing. So I sat down in my preferred CAD program and made this. And seeing this, you might be like, this sucks. And, well, it did. I printed it, it barely worked, and I went back to the computer and put together this. Now, this design was much, much cleaner and actually seemed to work. This design included a slot for a servo to insert directly into the finger, a mounting rail on the bottom for later, and a moving finger. Originally, I was going to make the entire design gray, but decided to go with gray and blue. And you might ask, why blue? Blue's stupid. And I repeat you with that's all I had lying around. So after finishing this design, I sent it to the 3D printer, and following the mishaps that come with owning a printer that's seen better days, I had a working finger in my hands. Following this, I went straight to designing the rest of the hand, while at the same time printing the rest of the fingers. And this is where this project started to get to me. You see, earlier when I mentioned my goals with the project, there were a few I left out. One of those being the concept of adding angular movement to the fingers. Most people leave out this crucial aspect of a hand's movement, which is commonly referred to as a flexion-extension movement, where your fingers can not only open and close, but also can move angularly up and down. This movement adds so much to the hand, and I just really wanted to add it to my design, but I just couldn't fit it in there with all the servos. Here's my attempt at it, and as you can see, the servos take up lots of room, and wiring this all together and dealing with and controlling all the servos would be a nightmare. So I decided to scrap this and hopefully come back to it in a future iteration. So after all this work, I had come up with this design for the hand, including all 4 fingers as well as the thumb, which was the same design as the fingers but slightly shorter. Here I was able to achieve one of my original goals for the thumb, having it open and close, move side to side, and move across the palm. Now, let's take a break from designing and go check up on those prints. It took me several weeks to print the other 3 fingers because my old Ender 3 is hitting that point where I might just need to old yeller it and take it out back. But through the pain, I had all the parts I needed for my fingers, which I proceeded to spend another week putting together because of printing error and lots of sanding being needed. And here's the hand's current state. I've got all 4 fingers put together, some having servos and some not, all attached to a piece of cardboard because I haven't got along with the printing of the full hand. Here, I've definitely learned some mistakes in my original model and seen where it needs improvements. After that, I took a break from printing and went back to designing because I wanted to figure out what was next. I needed to determine how I wanted the wrist to move and ended up deciding on a Stewart platform design, aka a parallel manipulator, allowing for precise movements along multiple axes. A Stewart platform, according to Wikipedia, is a type of parallel manipulator that has 6 prismatic actuators. Now, most real designs of these things use linear actuators, which isn't what I want, so I decided to make mine with microservos. Proceeding to design, this is what I came up with. And seeing this brought me to the realization that all of these servos aren't that necessary for my goal of creating wrist. So I went back to the drawing board and got rid of a few servos. While the Stewart platform is a 6 degrees of freedom parallel manipulator, I realized I could get away with the same movements out of a 3 degrees of freedom version that has 3 servo joints in the base, 3 ball joints in the wrist, and 1 more servo joint at the top, allowing for rotation of the wrist. And this is where I've stopped for now. I've started redesigning the fingers after all the problems I had putting together the original design, and I've assessed my situation. Right now, my biggest setback is printing errors. My Ender 3 just isn't meeting my needs anymore. In the future, I plan to upgrade to a printer with better specs and ease of use, since I no longer have the time to constantly troubleshoot and tweak it. I'm considering a Bambu Lab printer or something similar. From this point on, I also plan on working on a full arm design, integrating the wrist into set design, and also determining how I want to control and code this project. Right now it's rough. I've got cardboard, broken prints, and fingers that don't always move. If you want to stick around and see this hand finally work along with other projects I'm working on, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.